जो मंगे सतगुरु अपने थे, सो भी तेरे.
Thank you. Welcome, friends. I am very happy to be back here on the East Coast and to meet so many old friends and some new ones who also I don't consider as new friends. We may look like new friends, but whenever we meet anybody, we later on discover we were old friends. We have all met before, somewhere, sometime. I am very happy to be here. And I am very glad that Gary Armstrong and Rick Murgott, with the help of other friends here, have made these arrangements so I could come and meet you and talk to you and share some of the teachings of the great master. The great master, Hazur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh, was born on the 27th of July, 1858. Day before yesterday was his birthday. I flew into Philadelphia day before yesterday, remembering it's an important day that the great master came into the physical world on this particular day. Before I left Chicago airport, a man was sitting there looking at my cap. And he said, "This cap is from Kullu, Manali in India." And I said, "Yes." And I was still thinking that what a strange thing to meet a person who could immediately recognize me from my cap. But my surprise was when he said that he worked in the military engineering service, same service the great master worked in, was educated in the same college the great master was educated. What a coincidence that I should meet this right on my way to Philadelphia. I thought it was a great coincidence and reminded me that coincidences are a very important part of our spiritual life. We take them as just chance meetings, chance happenings, by chance opening of a book and seeing something on a certain page that relates to what we are thinking about. It is not that simple. Coincidences mean a lot more than that. Actually, the coincidence means it is a message from God. People ask me, how can we hear God? We not seen him, we don't hear him, we don't know where he is. But God has made arrangements that we can hear him whenever we like. We can hear him inside our head and we can hear him outside through coincidence. I know that very few of us go inside. The real secret is to go inside. If we went inside, we would have direct meeting, even a merger, even an identification with the ultimate creator. But if we do not go inside, we only search for things outside. The creator has left several means to communicate with us even outside. And one of the important things is a coincidence. What is a coincidence? It is just something that happens defying the laws of probability. What is not probable happens. And we say, how did this happen now? How did this come about at this particular time? How did these two things happen at the same time? How did it happen that I was thinking of a particular friend and I should meet that friend after 20 years on the same day? How can it happen that I had a problem in my mind? I was driving my car and saw a sign on the road unrelated to my question, but part of the answer was right there. How do these things happen? How do these coincidences operate? The answer is that there is a means for communication with our total self, our creator within, and a means for communicating with our total self outside. The means for communicating inside is called intuition. Intuition, intuitive feelings, intuitive knowledge that comes to us from within without applying reason is a communication with totality. But when you reason out, that's the mind working. The mind is not the same as our own ultimate consciousness. It's an accessory to consciousness. It is added on to consciousness. Our consciousness is our reality. That we can communicate with our consciousness through intuition gives us means to communicate with totality. If you know what it means to sit in absolute silence and think of nothing but being inside yourself in silence, inside your head, in the center of your head, behind the eyes, thinking of nothing else but being there, you will see that the intuitive process brightens up and you are able to communicate with your own higher self. It's not such a difficult thing. It has become difficult because we rely constantly on the accessory to ourselves, the mind, and we do not rely on ourselves. In fact, we have departed so far away from our own identity that we've begun to feel the mind is ourself. We have begun to say, because I can think, that is me. The thinking machine is me. It's not. The thinking machine cannot function if you don't provide consciousness to it. You don't provide life to it. Life and consciousness is your real self, not the thinking machine. Intuition does not depend upon thinking at all. All thinking, whether the shortest thought or the longest thought, requires time and thinks in space. Intuition comes without time and comes spontaneously. And there is no explanation how it comes. There is no rational explanation how it comes. Very often we get a gut feeling and we don't know where it is coming from. But when we reason and we try to destroy that feeling, we miscommunicate with our own self. So the mind, instead of being a friendly accessory, a friendly machine attached to us, becomes an obstacle to our own self-realization. So that is why it's very necessary to know how to communicate with your own inner self, as well as how to find out if the inner communication is working well by outer confirmation through a process called coincidence. So coincidence is not such a simple thing. I have watched over the last several decades that people who come on the spiritual path, as they progress on the spiritual path and as they make advance and have more and more awareness of their true self, the number of outside coincidences increases. And they begin to see every day some new coincidence takes place. And they say it's miraculous how these things are happening. They're both connected. Inward progress and outward verification through these coincidences, synchronicities, these things happening by chance at the same time, they go together. And that is why it's important to keep in mind that a coincidence is not merely something happening by chance against the law of probability, it's a message. Also, we have seen that sometimes we are told to live in the will of God. And we say, we don't know what the will of God is. Or we say, isn't everything that is happening also the will of God? All good things happening, all bad things happening, terrorists attacking, sickness in the hospitals, accidents taking place, are these also all will of God? If everything is will of God, the whole show is a will of God, how do we distinguish between the mind's will, an individual mind's will, and the will of God if we are required to live in the will of God? Here again you will find that coincidences often give the answer. That we do not know what the will of God is, but the will of God is revealed outside in a chance happening. Rumi, one of the mystics of the Middle Ages and of the Middle East, he said, people have often asked me, how do you know what is God's will? And I tell them it is very simple. If God has placed a spade in your hand, He has expressed His will. Dig. If He has given a pen in your hand, He has expressed His will. Write. It doesn't take very long to know that the circumstances around you, which have been created without your mind actively creating it, is a will of God. If you recognize that all the circumstances around you are an expression of the will of God, and you go with those circumstances and do what those circumstances require, you are living in the will of God. So it's a surprise that we question ourselves, what is the will of God? The will of God can be seen every day, every moment, by what is around us. Then what is not the will of God? And why has He distinguished it? The distinction between the will of God and our mind's will is that He has separated the individual mind from the will of God, from the circumstances around us, so that we can experience a unique feeling available only to human beings. And that is the feeling of seeking the truth, seeking God, seeking our reality, seeking anything beyond what we can see around us. This seeking is not possible if we did not have the experience of free will, did not experience that we can make a choice. So in order to make us have the feeling of making a choice, He has given us a mind. And the mind has to be used by us to make choices. And if we make choices that correspond to the circumstances around us, that correspond to what is going around us, that correspond to the coincidences that happen around us, we are living in the will of God. But if the mind questions that and goes against us, then we make a distinction between the will of God and the mind's will. This has been specially provided. This has been provided for human beings so that we can be different from all other living forms. There are living forms having the same soul, same consciousness that we have, in the form of plants, in the form of insects, birds, mammals, animals, all around us. They all have souls, they all have life, they all have consciousness in varying degrees of awareness. And this life form, the only life form in which we seek, in which we make decisions, in which we make choices, in which we feel we have a free will, is the human form. The human form which enables us to seek has been called the top of creation. Why is the human form top of creation? Because by seeking, we can open the doors to higher perception. We can open the doors to knowledge of our own self, knowledge of the Creator, knowledge of the creation, knowledge of everything that you want to know. All knowledge lies within us. There's no knowledge outside. When we pick up knowledge from outside, it's just an opening up of that which is already in us. If we don't have something in us, we cannot acquire knowledge from outside. People ask questions, and I tell them the answer is inside you. If you ask me a question, you already have the answer. If you did not have the answer, you could not frame the question. And if I gave an answer that doesn't fit in with your question, you will say, no, that doesn't apply. If I gave an answer that fits in your question, you will say, right, that's what I meant, that's what I wanted. The answer is always there, and knowledge is always there. So you will find that everything that we need for experiencing the best in human life is already with us. And that is why it's important to just know who we are and why these things happen like this. If we understand that we are essentially, ultimately, pure consciousness, just the ability to be aware, the ability to experience life, if that is our reality, if that is our soul, and all other things are attachments to it, we'll get all the knowledge we want. This awareness that we are the soul, the spirit consciousness, that we are the capacity to be aware, that's our real nature. And the capacity to think is an addition to it. The capacity to have sense perceptions is an addition to it. The capacity to have a solid body around us is an addition to it. These are added on to ourselves, they are not ourselves. When we make a mistake of thinking that what is added on to us is ourselves, we get into trouble. All our troubles are arising just because of misidentification with the covers upon ourselves and believing they are ourselves. This body is just a cover. We were there before this body was born. We'll be there after this body goes. And if we don't know about it, we can check it out by going inside ourselves and discovering who we were before we were born. The evidence is all lying inside us. You don't have to make any guesswork. Don't have to go and question people, other people, to find out if we have an afterlife, if we had a life before birth. Go inside your own self. Use your own memory. How do we remember what happened yesterday? With our own memory. How do we remember what happened this morning? What breakfast we ate? With our own memory. So we can use our own memory to go back and find out where we were 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. And we can see it's all recorded, available inside us. There's nothing outside that can give us the verification that we can get from inside. We don't go inside. Even in this, here is a seminar, here's a workshop going on, we are all outside. We go to satsangs, we go to workshops, we go to meetings, we hear about going inside, we say nice talk, wonderful food, great bandara. We hear from one ear, get it out from the other, and go home and carry on as usual. The whole idea of having these meetings is to be practical, to find out what is inside us. We have become so much used to putting our attention outside, we forget the whole secret is inside. So the important thing is that we must find out what is inside. You will discover, much to your surprise sometimes, that whatever is outside is also inside. That there is no difference really. Whatever we think is outside, what we think is a great material world that has been created with so many galaxies and so much space and time outside, that this exists independently, that we came temporarily into this world in a little body, and the body dies and we die with it. That's not correct. Go check it out. Go within yourself and find out that the outside world is a projection. It's based entirely on your perceptions. Supposing you cut out your sense perceptions and have no sense perceptions, the outside world disappears. Have you ever thought of it? That the entire world you think has been existing forever is all being acquired by you, experienced by you because of sense perceptions? There's nothing else that is proving it at all. And yet we take that to be more real than our own self. I got my iPhone and got a little message. It's a nice gadget. I started using this gadget and I saw a quote from a scientist. I thought I'd like to share with you. I recorded the quote from Albert Einstein, great scientist. We all respect him. So hear what he says. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant, with which I agree. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. It's very simple, that we are relying totally on a mind that is a cover upon ourselves. We are relying on sense perceptions, which are a cover upon ourselves. We are relying upon a physical body, which is a cover upon ourselves. The immortal, endless, eternal reality is sitting inside this very body we are holding. The body is a manifestation of consciousness to hold together, to create physical experiences. Why do we have a physical body? To create the experience of a physical world. If you don't have a physical body, there's no physical world at all. What are the sense perceptions? That's only another body. Sense perceptions are what we call an astral body, an ethereal body. Sense perceptions themselves constitute the ethereal or astral body. That's not another body or something. It is the creation of perceptions through senses, divided senses, 5 senses, 5 motor senses, 5 senses to receive information. These senses are creating a body around us which is superimposed upon ourselves and it lies inside the physical body. So the physical body feels all the sense perceptions are because of the physical body. Although the reality is that the sense perceptions are a separate cover upon our own self. Inside that is another body. It's called the causal body, which is nothing more than our own mind. Our thinking machine is the causal body. There is no other body. The thinking machine is the first cover upon ourselves. The sensory body is the second cover upon ourselves. The physical body is a third cover upon ourselves. When we are all these bodies, when we are wearing these 3 bodies upon ourselves, one upon the other, and sitting in the physical world, a physical world becomes a reality. And all perceptions and all thoughts and all intuitive experiences come through this cover. Supposing we release this physical body. When we die, this body dies. What happens then? If this body dies, does the rest of it die? Of course not. If you check it out, not from outside, not by going into books and libraries, but from your own experience, that what is inside you besides this physical body, and you'll find that the inner body has been living for 1,000 years, 2,000 years. It's not new at all. The sensory system you are using to see, touch, taste, smell are not belonging to this physical body. They belong to the inner body and are being experienced while you have this physical body as if they are through the physical body, and therefore creating a physical world. When this body disappears by death or otherwise, and I'll talk of otherwise in a minute, when this body disappears, the astral body becomes your life. The astral world becomes the created world outside you and not the physical world. And you find that the physical world was merely a reflection, a crude, gross reflection of the astral world. That the astral world was existing because of the astral body. The physical world exists because of the physical body. Supposing you dismiss and get out of the astral body also, you have no sense perceptions and only the concepts of a thought process, thinking and concepts alone remain with you. You will find there is another world existing. You don't have any shape of this body anymore after the astral body, and yet a whole new world opens up. A whole new world which exists, has always existed, is still existing, but you cannot see it because you are covered with the senses and with this physical body. Supposing you can get rid of the causal body, the mind itself. Supposing you can transcend the mind, leave it behind, and move on to discover who you really are. Pure consciousness, pure soul, pure spirit. You will find another world opening up. A world that is truly spiritual, is immortal, has always been there. Our true home. A true home is lying in totality of consciousness, not in these covers which we have adopted, taken over to get new experiences. We came into this world not to create a suffering for ourselves, not to get merged and trapped into this world. We came to have an adventure. We came to have some fun. And we said we'll have fun by creating duality, pain and pleasure, light and darkness. We'll create both kinds of things. And this dialectic system will give us more adventure. But we will always remember, we came into this carnival, we came into this show just for the show. And later on we'll go home. What has happened? We got lost in the carnival. We got lost in the crowd here. We've forgotten where we belong. We even forgotten who we are. So these mystics who have come with experience and with personal knowledge of these things have told us, go within yourself, you get all the answers. You'll find out this is a temporary abode for you. Nothing that is here, nothing at all will go with you. It doesn't belong to you. These things are for temporary use. They are for temporary enjoyment, maybe temporary suffering too. Why? Because without suffering you don't know what enjoyment is. It's a strange duality that if we don't have the opposite of something, we don't experience it. Imagine, look at light for example. Supposing there was light at a certain place, like this light we are seeing around us, and whether we close our eyes, open our eyes, whether we sleep or we are awake, this light always remained. We would never have seen it. We would never have known there is light. We wouldn't have even invented the word light. Because there was darkness, we could compare darkness, contrast it, and say this is light, that is darkness. This is true of almost every human experience, that all experiences run in pairs of opposites. And sometimes we wonder why we created pairs of opposites. It is to have the other experience. What about the state which is beyond the mind, which is beyond the pairs of opposites? How can you say everything has to be experienced because of the opposites? Well, this is a world of duality of pairs of opposites. Exists a world of non-pairs of opposites, and that becomes an opposite of this. That is why by creating this experience here in this world, we have been able to realize our own experience in a true home. Our true home experience has been enlightened, has become real for us because of this experience here. It's remarkable how the principle of pairs of opposites applies even right to our true home, that we can have a non-home and say that's our true home. Supposing we didn't have any of this experience, we wouldn't know where we are. Even our true home, we wouldn't know it's a true home. How do we call it our true home? Because there's some place which is not our true home. So this whole experience is based upon these pairs of opposites. And that is why when we identify ourselves with these outside bodies, we are able to appreciate more our own inner self. Somebody once asked me a question that we are always praying to God, asking for things. Does God ever pray to us what He wants? Is the reverse also true? I said, I sure think that He is expecting something from us. What is He expecting? He is expecting His own nature, which is that He should be able to see love, which is coming directly from pure consciousness, not from the mind, not from the senses, and not from this body. Here's an expression. What does He expect through love? His creation, which is to be appreciated, so that when we can get out of the creation, we appreciate Him even more. So remember these two words, appreciation and love. They're the secret of what the Creator expects from you. Appreciation and love. If you have these two, you have satisfied the Creator inside you. So that is why it's very important that we understand that these coincidences, that these things that are happening outside are all giving us indications where the truth lies. The truth lies within ourselves. It is not outside. And if we want to find the truth, let us experience what will happen anyway. It may happen after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 100 years. This body will disappear by death. Then what will happen? After 1,000 years, 2,000 years, the sensory perceptions will disappear by death. Then what will happen? After a few million years, the mind, the conscious processes will die, will finish by death. They all die. This body dies, the astral body dies, the mind dies. There's a limit to how long they will live. The soul, the consciousness that resides inside these three bodies will never die. It was never born and can never die. It's eternal. It's immortal. That is why to discover this, why wait for your physical death to know if you are here after death or not? Why go and wait for 1,000 years to see if the sensory systems die and whether I will be there or not? Why wait for millions of years, which is the life of a mind, and say I'll check it out after a million years if I am somebody other than that? Why don't you do it now? There is a means of creating an artificial experience of death for all these three, which can be done right now while we are in a physical body in the material world. How does death affect our physical body? If you look at a person dying, you will see it is actually merely the withdrawal of attention from this world and from this body. When a person dies, he begins to withdraw his attention from what is happening around to the body, and within the body begins to withdraw attention from the extremities of the body, from the feet and the hands. They die first. If you see a person dying in hospitals, you might have seen, the patient who is dying says, I don't know where my feet are. I don't know where my hands are. The dying process is a gradual process of withdrawal of awareness of different parts of the body, starts from the extremities, goes on, the legs disappear, the hands, arms disappear, the torso remains, then the torso begins to disappear from the bottom, the heart dies, and then the brain dies, and we are dead. That's the process. It's a very unique process, but it's happening every day. We all die like that. How about creating this experience artificially through a process which has been mistakenly called meditation, or maybe rightly called meditation? What is the process of meditation? It's merely withdrawal of attention. Supposing you withdraw your attention from this world and then begin to withdraw your attention from your hands and feet and begin to withdraw your attention from your body and take it up to where the brain lies, the last to die, what will happen? You will gradually lose the awareness of the world, you lose the awareness of your body, and then when you are right somewhere in the middle of your head, somewhere where all these awarenesses ultimately coalesce into one, you will find that you are still more alive than you ever were, but not in this body. It's a practical experience. Anybody can have. A child of 5 years old and an old man of 100 years old can have this experience. It's not designed for any particular race or particular group of people. All human beings have this capacity to withdraw their attention from the body and discover that there is something more in the body. What happened? Then you discover that what you thought was an imaginary body of yours was indeed the body of sense perceptions. That you could have the sense perceptions without having this physical body. That indeed the physical body was having sense perceptions because of the inner body that was lying inside, creating those perceptions. It's an amazing experience that you discover that you were there in that form many times, that this body's shape and form was temporary, that you have had several bodies before in different shapes, in different species. You might have been angels in the sky, you might have been grass in a lawn, you might have been animals, you have grown through the whole process of evolution, and you might have been several times human beings like this. So it's an amazing experience to be able to realize yourself, not on speculation, but by personal experience, that you have a much longer life in the inner body than you have had in the physical body. This process of withdrawing attention from your body to your own brain center, which they have called the third eye center, very well named, the third eye center, where the attention can be drawn, so that you can experience that you have an inner body that has outlasted this body before and after. And there's a future for that life. Even when this body dies, that will be your form after death. That was your form before you were born. It can be checked out. Don't rely on somebody else's statements about these things. Don't rely on books. Rely on your own experience. Now, when I say withdrawal of attention to the center, that is where the ultimate attention is flowing out from, in the wakeful state of a human being, of a human body, where do we feel we are operating from? Supposing you are just a center of consciousness, a center from where all attention is flowing out. Where is that center? I mean, it doesn't take very long to speculate. It's not in your hands. It's not in the torso. It's in the head. You're sitting behind the eyes. When you open your eyes, you feel that you're looking out. If you were of no space and time, you are behind the eyes. The situation of notional location of consciousness in the wakeful state is right behind the eyes. In fact, if I raise my fingers like this and say these tips of my fingers, the nails, are my eyes, and I put like this, exactly where the fingers meet on my hand, that far deep, is exactly the location where the attention is operating out when we are in a wakeful state. It's a physiological and biological position that we are in, that our consciousness is operating in the wakeful state from that point. Therefore, if you have to withdraw your attention and experience what has been called dying while living, because you're going to be having experience that you would have when you die while you're still alive. How do you have that experience? By pulling your attention to the same spot that will happen when you die. And that is the same spot that is in the center of the brain. It lies somewhere. If you were to examine the head and the brain, under the pituitary body, just below it, you'll find that's the spot. Exactly you can name it, that where the attention operates from. People associate it with that location. People associate it, maybe the pineal gland and the pituitary body are responsible for spread of our consciousness around into the body and elsewhere. But that's not true, because you can shift that. Supposing you believe you are not sitting here, but you're sitting on top of this roof or roof of this building. You can hold your attention there. You are no longer there. You'll feel that you are there. The power of shifting attention is very strong. But apart from that, even when you are going to sleep every night, you shift the location from there. You may not have noticed, but you can check it out, that when you are sleeping, you are no longer behind the eyes. The notional point from where attention is flowing shifts down to your throat. I can give you a little experiment to do, that when you are sleepy at night, before actually going to sleep, when you're half asleep, try to touch your eyes. In the wakeful state, with your eyes closed, your hands will touch your eyes. Try the same thing when you're half asleep, you'll touch your nose. You're already moving downwards. you will find that when you're sleeping, which is the center from where actually you're believing that the dream sequence are taking place? You actually hear. Some of the yogis in India are practicing the art of retaining some consciousness of the wakeful state while they are sleeping, or while they are meditating, or while they are going into lower chakras for different experiences. And they have noticed that what looks like the eyes here, during that state, look like the eyes are shifted down to the throat center. That when you are in deep sleep, in samadhis, it shifts further down to the heart center. Some very rare sadhus I have met who can shift deliberately by yogic practice to even lower centers. But the fact that this is a notional place, it is not an organ of the body. It's a notional place where consciousness operates. In the wakeful state, it resides right behind the eyes. Good enough, then the way to proceed, the true meditation would be to take your attention to that spot. Withdraw your attention to that spot. Now, people say it's very difficult to meditate. Why is it difficult to put your attention where we know we have to put our attention? If I were told, put your attention on my gadget, I'd take no time. I love my pictures over this. I can put my attention on this gadget so easily. Why is it difficult to put attention on my own self in my head? The reason is that when we put attention on something else, we move away from the center. We are focusing on something else. When we focus on something else, we move away from where we are focusing from. On the other hand, when I say go back to your center, we are withdrawing attention, not focusing. That's the biggest mistake we make. We try to focus attention even when we want to be within ourselves. The difference between focusing attention on something and withdrawing attention from there to yourself is a difference. From childhood, we have been trained to focus attention on things. We've never been taught how to withdraw attention. And now comes meditation, which is a process of withdrawal of attention. Withdrawal of attention to the eye center from where the attention is flowing out. So it's a different process. And therefore we get confused for a long time. Even meditationally, we try to make picture of ourselves. We make a picture of the space in our head, which is all outside of our focal point. The focal point is from where we are making the picture, from where we are thinking about making a picture. We have to go back to the point, and that's why it looks difficult. But once you are able to achieve it, it's very easy. You do it automatically. Once you achieve this art of withdrawing attention and not putting attention somewhere else, you'll find it's very easy. Any minute you want, you can withdraw attention there, and your awareness can quit from here and go into another awareness, and into another level of consciousness. Another world will open up. So the idea that we can do these things while we are in the physical body has been explained to us by these mystics, by these saints, by these higher yogis. They have explained to us this can all be done within yourself. What is the advantage of doing it? Some people tell me it's very nice to hear about the theology and about religion and all the spirituality. But we are practical people. We have to pay our bills. That's a big problem. We have to work and pay our bills, and we are living in a world, we have obligations. What good is the stuff that you're talking about, the spiritual path? They do not realize that while we are paying bills and taking them to be real, we are suffering. We are under pain, unnecessary pain, thinking, oh, we owe something to somebody. We are not seeing the whole show. We are not seeing it's a well-set, predetermined, pre-scripted play we are going through, we are acting in it. We don't see that. By going within on the spiritual path, we see what the show is about. It changes our entire attitude towards the show. And therefore, even the show with all its ups and downs becomes a show. We go to a movie and we see a movie, we don't go to see only happy events there. We pay an entrance fee even for seeing horror movies. We pay entrance fees to see tragedies in the movies. And we come back, that was a great movie. Why? Because we knew it was a movie. We knew it was a show. Do we know this hall is also a show? Do we know there is no real difference between this show and a movie that we watch? But we don't know because we are participating in this show as if we are really involved, that the body is not an actor in this show. The truth is this body this mind. They are actors in the show. If you find yourself, in yourself, who you are, you discover you were just sitting there watching a show, which was set up and pre-scripted, that you are going according to the script. Now, some people think that if it is all pre-scripted, predetermined, what is the business of seeking then? How do you seek when it's already written up? Well, the truth is, seeking is also written up. What about analyzing whether I should do this or not do that? And then making a decision. That's also written up. But when it is written up that you will think hard, you will say, should I do it or not do it? Is it real, unreal? If this is all written up, we'll go through it in ignorance, thinking we are really doing it. So the basis for that involvement is ignorance. Now you will find ignorance is really bliss. Because if we were not ignorant of the future, it will be very hard for us to live in this life. The ignorance of what is going to happen in the next minute, next 5 minutes, next day, tomorrow, the rest of our life, is the ignorance that makes us feel we have free will. Without ignorance, there is no free will. The moment you have knowledge, free will disappears. And yet, to get that knowledge, we have to use free will. It's a strange combination that while we are here, we have to seek, and the seeking has been pre-recorded. And yet, when we seek and find, we find that the whole thing was pre-recorded. Okay, then people ask a question, very related question to this. Is our effort of any use if it's pre-recorded? My simple answer doesn't convince them when I say effort is also pre-recorded. But they say that, how can that be? What about grace? What is the relationship between effort and grace? How much do we depend upon grace of divinity, of divine, of masters, of gurus? How much does that count in relation to our own effort? Well, the answer is again very paradoxical, that when you start on this path and are ignorant what has already been written up, and you think you are making your future, you are making choices that will determine what will happen, and you are totally unaware of what's going to happen, and you think that your choices are making the future, at that time effort is of utmost importance. Because besides that you know nothing. When you make the effort and you keep on getting more grace after that, at the end of the road you find even the effort was grace. There was no way you could make effort without grace. At the end you find there was no difference between effort and grace. It's an amazing discovery, this itself. Just as the discovery that free will is free only while we are practicing and is no longer free when we have knowledge, and that effort is effort only we don't have the reach the other end and it becomes grace. These are amazing discoveries. And yet we have to go through the whole process as if we are making choices here. I might have shared with some of you an experience I had with a guy in India. I was applying for the position in the Indian Navy, and I went for an interview in the Indian Navy. When I came out of the interview, a guy with a turban came across me and he said, "Good luck." I said, "You are an Indian like me, why are you speaking English? Why are you saying good luck in English?" He says, "I am saying good luck because I see good luck in you and I can tell you what it is." I said, "Come on, tell me." He said, "Give me some money." I said, I know this racket. I know a lot of people who do that." He said, "But I didn't tell you how much." I said, "I have 1 paisa, which is much less than 1 penny. I said, "I have 1 paisa in my pocket. Will that be sufficient?" He says, as an advance, yes." "Okay, put it on my palm of my hand." So I gave him my little penny on the palm of his hand. He closed it. He said, "I have met you today. After 29 days, you will get the message of good luck. After another 29 days, you have to get a message which is the bad luck. After another 29 days, I'll meet you to check if these 2 things have happened. If these 2 things have happened, give me the balance that day." I said, "Okay." I didn't take him very seriously. But as it was, this was the time in 1947, 1948, when we had just come out of Pakistan and we were moving away from the Dera. We had to travel on rooftops of the trains to come. I had just come to Delhi. And I was trying to get some business to make an earning, to make a living. And I had applied for a distributorship from a tea garden in India that I'll sell tea in North India. And telegram comes to me that you have been granted the distributorship for the whole of North India. It was big news. I just remembered the 29th day after I met that guy. That's uncanny. How could he know that? I wait another 29 days. A man comes to tell me, great master has passed away on the 2nd of April. Another 29 days. That was sad, but I said, that guy is right. Then I set up a little clinic. I was studying homeopathy. There was an allopath doctor, and we set up a joint clinic about 30 miles outside of New Delhi. And I came down to New Delhi to buy some of the equipment for that clinic. And when I was standing outside the store that sells the equipment, a guy hits me on the back, and I look, he's the same guy. He said, this is the third 29th day. He remembers that too. I was so impressed by that. I said, tell me, how do you do this? What is the method that you can know these things so much in advance? Then he explained that he belongs to a group of meditators called Bhatras, and the Bhatras have been taught how to see part of the future. Some can see only a little bit, some can see a little longer, and we get these glimpses intuitively when we see somebody, and therefore we tell them, and they turn out right. We don't know how we know it. We have been trained to be able to see these glimpses of the future. The point that I was thinking about was, even if he can see one glimpse of the future must be fixed then. How can he get the glimpse from? But then, after the naval interview, as I told you, I met another guy with a turban, similar guy, another Batra. And he told me, do you have a piece of paper? I thought he wanted to write something. I took out a piece of paper. And he said, write any number between 1 and 10. And I thought to myself, this is a common trick. When they say 1 to 10, people write 5. I am going to fool this fellow. I wrote 3. Then he said, write the name of any flower. I said, the most common flower is rose. Even in India, rose is the most common flower, and people write that when they ask, name any flower, they think of rose. And this fellow is thinking, I'm going to write rose. I am going to fool him again. I'll write a name of a flower he may never have heard of. So I wrote the name of a very unusual flower called chameli, Chameli, chameli. Then he said, write your date of birth. I wrote 1926. He said, that's the year of birth, write your date. So then I wrote November 26. Now normally we don't write the year first. We write the date or the month first and then the year. But I wrote the year first and then the date. He said, open the page that I wrote out, a little slip that I gave you. I opened up, it said 3 Chameli 1926. And then how on earth could he write that before I even thought of these things? A thought occurred to me, this is absolutely uncanny that anybody can do that. And then I was still in a state of surprise when he said, shall I tell you more? I said, what else can you tell me? You already perplexed me a lot. He said, you said that everybody writes the number 5 and I'm going to fool this fellow and write number 3. And you said everybody thinks of the rose and I'm going to think of a great flower that he can't know about and wrote chameli. And you wrote your date of birth. I said, you knew that also? He said, I knew before you thought of it. That's why I wrote it. That he could read 5 minutes in advance, not only what I will write, but the thoughts leading to it, the choice making that I did, which was totally free will. I was thinking it is total free will. How can another person know if it's real free will? If I really had free will, nobody else could know. People say that free will cannot be reality because if you have real free will, then even God cannot know. Real free will means complete choice. Nobody knows what you will decide. And then you will decide. And since God knows everything, nobody can have real free will. In fact, this was a discussion at Harvard University when I was studying, and they were discussing free will. Is it real, unreal? And so I said the experience of free will is always real because we always make choices. The reality of free will is it's unreal. It's already recorded. Even what we think is choice making. So the whole script is already there. Now, is there a place where we can see the script? If it is really pre-written, there should be some place where it's recorded. Actually, it is recorded and is called the Akashic records or Akashic records, and lies in the causal plane, the plane where the mind alone exists, and there is no sensory system and there is no physical body. It's recorded there. Can you see it? Of course. By what process can you see the Akashic records in which all the script is already there? By withdrawing your attention within yourself, at the third eye center in the physical body, withdrawing attention, at the third eye of the astral body, you open up and you can see your whole future and past, including the use of your free will. So it's amazing that all the means of discovering the truth are lying within us. And all it needs is a single process, the process of withdrawing our attention to our own self. It's not putting attention anywhere else. It's a process of withdrawing your attention stage by stage within whatever you think is the source of your consciousness, the source of your attention. If you can pull yourself back to where your attention is flowing out from, you get all the answers. You get all the experiences, even of reality and of truth. When you get that experience, you find it's very interesting to have the knowledge of what is going to happen, and then you close it down. You still want to have a surprise. But at least you have the key at all times to go there whenever you like. It doesn't mean that you have to be there all the time. If you had to be there all the time, you wouldn't create this experience in the first place. The fact that we have created these causal, astral and physical experiences shows that we wanted to go down into adventure and make it as real as possible. There was no way we could make this reality as real as it is if we hadn't shut off our experience of how it was created. That's what we've done. But it does not mean that we have been trapped forever. We have the means to unlock the secrets within ourselves and find how it was all set up. So that is why the whole of your attitude, life, experience changes to what it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be an adventure into new experience. These bodies were created to create new experiences. These bodies created universes that were supposed to create new experiences. And we came for the experience. And we got trapped in the experience because we forgot that this was just an experience we came for. And this is not our reality. This is not our home. This is an illusion that we converted into reality. Now remember, people have said this world is illusion. I don't agree with that. I said it was the use of illusion to create reality. What else is real? If somebody asks me, do you know anything real? I'll say no. Every stage is a creation. Every experience is a creation, including an experience of our true eternal home is an experience. The only reality is the experiencer, consciousness that experiences, consciousness that creates and experiences that reality. And we create levels of reality. The levels of consciousness are not levels of illusion. We use the process of illusion to create realities. That's the only definition we have of reality, to match one sense perception against another. For example, I want to know, is this cup of water real? I hold it. Absolutely. I can handle it. I can even taste it. That was just to prove the point.
Yeah. Perfectly.
That the cup is real.
Yeah.
Okay, even the lemon is real.
Yeah.
Although it's a lemon. It is a lemon. The fact that I could hold it, have tactical experience of it, that I could taste it, I could see it, I could smell it, I could do these things, makes the cup real. All right? Supposing the same thing happened in a dream, and I'm dreaming at night, and I see the cup, and I want to know is it real or not, I do the same things, I'll say it's real. Or I can ask Esther, Esther, is this cup real? She'll say, yes, I can see it. Confirmed, it's not only me. Somebody else is also seeing it. If in the dream I see Esther again, and I ask her, is this cup real? She'll say, yes, it's real. When will I find it's not real? When I wake up. When I wake up, I find neither the cup was real, nor Esther was real, nor my body that was asking the question was real. It was just an experience of a dream. And I am testing the reality of a dream by reference to other things in the same dream. How can you find out reality like that? The reality can only be found out if you wake up. If this experience of ours has been created in the same way like a dream, the only way we can ever know if it is real or not real is by waking up. By checking with each other in the dream, if I see 50 people in a dream and check with all of them, tell me, is it a dream or not? They'll all say, no, it's not a dream, it's real. And I say, yes, it's real, 50 people are confirming it. And I wake up and find there are no 50 people, I created them in the dream. It's the same thing. This world, material world, the astral world, sensory worlds, all universes have been created by consciousness by the same process, by projection into an experience outside of itself. And that is why this time-space creation outside of ourselves has given us the illusion which we have converted into reality. How did we convert into reality? By shutting off the experience of the other level. Supposing we go to sleep and still remember what is awake, it will never become real. The dream will never become real. The dream only becomes real because we forget we were sleeping. We forget that at a certain stage we were awake and we went to sleep and had a dream. There's another issue about it. How do we know that this is really a dream and we are awaking and not having another dream? How do we know we are not having hallucinations about a higher level of consciousness? My counter question to that question would be, how do you know you're awake when you wake up in the morning? Do you ask somebody, am I awake? Do you open your eyes and check? Do you pinch yourself? I've never seen anybody do that. Indeed, when you wake up in the morning, before you open your eyes, before you've moved in your bed, you know you're awake. And all the world can come and say you are sleeping and you will know you're awake. Nobody can convince you you're not awake. What happens? How do you know when you wake up in the morning that you are awake is not because of any evidence you look for, but because you recall that you had gone to sleep. That's the only thing that happens. You connect that you were there before, you went to sleep, you had a dream, you woke up to the same state you were in earlier. That's such a strong evidence of itself, such a strong evidence of your state of consciousness. You don't need any other proof. The same thing applies here. If you get into a next level of consciousness, the astral level of consciousness, it won't look like you've gone into a new world and gone and seen that. You've gone back to where you were before you were born. You've gone back to where you lived before. You've gone back to where you've had other incarnations in different forms. And you remember them and know them as much as you would know when you wake up from a dream and you know there's the same bed I slept in, there's the same world, and I have to go back to work. I have to have my breakfast and go to work. It's a real world. That was a dream world. The difference between one level of consciousness and another is determined by waking into the next level and making the lower level a dream. The same thing is true of all levels of creation, all levels of experience, and right up to the totality of consciousness where we find the whole show took place within one single consciousness, which is the only experiencer, the only reality. All experiences were generated within that, not outside of that. The biggest experience, of course, was the creation of time and space, which took place at the causal level. Before that, there's no such thing. Can you imagine that you are a soul, a spirit? When you reach a state where there is no mind, there is no time and no space either. There is no cause and effect. There is no karma. You can't say this is dependent on that. There is no reasoning. What kind of life is that? What kind of state is that? Do you have any language in anywhere in the world to describe that? I can't find it. Therefore, any description of a state of being, of a state of consciousness, which goes beyond the mind, is totally indescribable in any language, because the mind cannot understand anything that is without space, time, cause and effect. Our mind only understands that which can be described in space, time, and can say that was the cause, this is the effect. That's the nature of the mind. That's how the space-time continuum and the mind has been created. That's the causal world. The causal world creates all this. And above that is a world that cannot be described. And yet, mystics who have experienced that, and you are all capable of becoming those mystics who have experienced that, say that there is a world from which this all originated. These are illusions made into reality. Space-time has been created as an illusion and made into ultimate reality. Trapped. Nothing is a bigger trap than time. Nothing is a bigger trap than the creation of a space outside of ourselves. We are trapped in that. But what? How do you experience that? There was no language. And yet some mystics tried to describe it. They said, we are making stories. There's no other way to talk about it. Swamiji, one of the mystics in India, would give discourses on what happens when we go above the mind. He said there are tall trees there, several miles high, and all laden with rubies, jewelry, diamonds. He had a lot of women attending his meetings, I can tell you. All diamonds you could pluck from the trees. People said, are really trees growing there? He says, no, you can't have trees growing there. But how do I describe it? How do I tell them it is something much better than this? How can I say? The yogis have said, neti, neti. That means the only description is not this, not this. There's nothing to compare. It is nothing that you can compare. Therefore, they have to make stories. Somebody told me, are you a liar? I said, yes. I tell lies every day. Because whatever I say is a lie. I talk of things which are not real. I know they are not real, but I try to make them real. We are trying to live on a show. But then, if you go to see a play, a drama on a stage, and an actor does not act like it's an act, it's no good a show. The show is only good if the actors act as if it is real. To make the show more, if you pay a higher price, by the way, where the actors act is real, you pay a higher price for the show. Where it's a cheap show in the street, and you know they are just acting, you can go for a quarter and see that. But you pay $100, $150 for seeing a real good show in Broadway. Because they act like it's real. In a movie, only those movies are good where the actors acting like it's real. Ben Kingsley made a movie called Gandhi. Some of you might have seen. He said he practiced thinking he was Gandhi for 3 months before he acted in that. He had to imagine he was no longer Ben Kingsley in order to act well. Now imagine if in a worldly play like this, we need so much effort to become real. What about the play around here? We have taken no chances to try to pretend to be real. We made arrangements, it's automatically real for us. We can't even believe it's not real. So the reality that we have created outside has been built so well that we can enjoy this experience as a real experience, enjoy this show, enjoy this movie. Have you ever thought, if you believed, even if you did not know, even if you have not experienced meditationally, the withdrawal of your attention to third eye center and being able to see it's a show, then there's no question, you will know it's a show. Supposing you haven't done that yet, you just believe that you are sitting behind the eyes as an audience, watching the show, in which all the thing you open your eyes with is an act going on. And your body is also an actor in that. And your mind, whatever it's thinking, whatever speech you are making is part of the act. And your body is an actor, and the rest of the world that you see is an act going on. Do you know your life will change instantly from that moment? Just with this intellectual, artificial experience can do it without deep meditation. Once you understand it's a show, it looks so different. You do not get involved in it. You become a spectator. You become a witness to the show and not involved in the show. Our troubles are rising because of involvement in the show, and believing that we are really having all those things which are happening in the show. There is a book which I studied in college called The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. It is considered a very important book in English literature because for the first time, the characters that play in a play are recognized by their separate characterization and not merely by their title. Before that, if there was a play in which there was a king, he was a king. It could be any king. But after Chaucer came the plays written by so many playwrights where a king could be a jealous king, could be a kind king, could be a bad king, could be a good king. Before that, a king was a king. So this new feature he introduced by writing a book. It's a book about a number of pilgrims about 40, 50 pilgrims traveling to Canterbury on a pilgrimage. And as they go along, there is no transportation, there are no cars to go speedily there. They are all going slowly, it takes several days to go there. To while away their time, they are telling stories to each other, they are singing songs, they are reciting poems, just to entertain each other. Now, it's a very interesting thing because first time they are showing character in the characters of that play. For example, there's an attorney in that, a lawyer. He's described like this in that poem. A busier man than him there nose. Nose means never was. A busier man than him there nose, and yet he seemed busier than he was. It would apply to any attorney. So this kind of stuff. There was a wife of Bath. Bath is a town in England. Wife of Bath. Husbands. At church she had 5. Without an other company, which means besides other company, youth, but I need not talk of that youth. See, this kind of expression about a woman's character came up first time. But the interesting thing is, in that book, Chaucer himself, the author of this book, becomes a character. He says, I was also walking with them. And then they, at some point, they say, Chaucer, you are a great author, great poet. Come tell us some of your good poetry. And he says, I don't know much poetry. The man who's written all the poems, the author in the play says, I don't know much poetry. They say, no, we know you are a good poet. Come on, tell us, give us a poem. And he comes out in that book with the worst doggerel rhyme than any that could be imagined. And not only that, he didn't know it, all the others criticize him for the bad poem he sang. Question has been raised, why did Chaucer, the author of the book, he could have taken any character for himself. He chose a character in which he was criticized, crucified by his own creation, by his own characters that he made. Something that they compare in theology with the crucifixion of Christ. Christ, they say, Son of God, the Son of the Creator, he gets crucified by his own creation. They compare the two things. Why did it happen? Why did Christ do that? Why did Chaucer do that? The answer is very simple. Chaucer, becoming a character, knows he's all the characters. All the time he knows he's all the characters. He's the author of all. With that knowledge, he could put himself in any role and still be the author of all. That is why an enlightened person in this world who comes here with the knowledge that he is all people, is all being created from the same consciousness, doesn't mind at all what role he is playing. But if we are unenlightened, we individuate ourselves into one role and then we suffer. Then we think that's our reality, that's our real role. Our real role is to watch the show. Our real role is not to play the role. We have been given the costumes to play the role. The costumes are beautiful. Physical body, sensory systems, and the mind. What better costume do you need? You put on all these costumes to have a great show. And therefore, the person who is enlightened comes to know these were costumes worn to make the show interesting. It doesn't matter what role, what character he has taken up in these costumes. He's all the characters all the time. We are taught in religion that we are all one. We don't believe it. We try to be one and we hate each other. Trying to be one. We kill each other in trying to be one. What is this? On the other hand, what is meant by being one is that our origin, our source, our reality is one. That we are just experiencing all these creations into separate forms, that although we have ourselves taken one of the characters, it doesn't mean that we are that character. Our consciousness is all characters, because all have been born from the same consciousness, and that has never been split, never been separated. It's not that consciousness had to be divided into pieces to do it. It remains intact. It's one all the time, even now. One consciousness within itself creates the many and the experience of individuation by which it can take experience and look at it from different points of view. Somebody said rightly that a human being, as a conscious being, is merely one point of view of the total consciousness. That the consciousness is not separated, is looking at creation from one angle, from one point. Somebody else has been created, same consciousness has put itself in a different location and different position. But the ultimate viewer, the ultimate experiencer is one. When you have a dream, how many people have to dream to see 20 people in a dream? Only one. When you wake up, there's only one dreamer. When a dreamer thinks that he has got so many people around him, he's making all of them up and giving them individual personality. In a dream, we have people who fight with us, argue with us, even kill us. But when we wake up, we find it just a dream and we say, thank God it was a dream. Don't you realize that we'll say the same thing when we realize in our highest self, in our highest consciousness, that we were always the same one consciousness, that the rest was all a dream within a dream within a dream, that these are successive levels being created, dreamlike, projected the same way to create realities outside of ourselves. So that is why it's so important for us to use the spiritual path for enlightenment, so that our whole approach changes, our whole experience changes. We have unnecessarily got involved into a play in which we were just taking positions, wearing costumes to act certain roles, and we believe that's our only reality. And that's not a very pleasant reality. It's not a happy reality. How many people are happy? A person who knows this is a show is happy all the time. There's no question. He's watching and enjoying the show all the time. But a person who doesn't know has got involved into the unhappiness of the characters. And since different levels of creation have been created, this particular level, called the physical world, the physical level, with a physical body and a physical world around, is not a very happy place. I must tell you this. If you involve yourself totally into the character that you are, you're likely to be more unhappy than happy. If you go around in the world and ask how many people are happy or unhappy, unhappiness seems to be a lot more. The truth is not that. Truth is the happiness and unhappiness is equally balanced. We all have ups and downs. And if you look at the ups and downs, they're pretty well balanced. But there are differences that you can have a very tangible up, like a lot of money, and a very intangible unhappiness like a bad relationship. Now you don't see this as a comparison, but the truth is if you put the tangible experiences we are having and the intangible experiences we are having, we are all pretty well balanced. We all have, those who have more money are less happy because of something else. Those who have less money are unhappy because of poverty. So it's all balanced out. Why should we have this kind of thing? The reason why we are having a balanced ups and downs, balanced happiness and unhappiness, balanced pleasure and pain in a physical world is to create a human being in which this balance creates a middle of the path being who can seek, and the unhappiness should make him look for more happiness, and the happiness should show there is higher happiness somewhere else. The experience has been so generated. Supposing we were always happy, we would never be here. We would be in heaven. And there are heavens created as experiences where everybody is happy. Supposing we had all bad things happening, we would be in hell. And there are hells where our people are suffering all the time as part of their experience to go from one to the other. Physical human life is a combination of the two and has happy moments and unhappy moments, and has good things and bad things. And we have got all this division so that here we can have an experience which does not exist anywhere else, neither in heaven, nor in hell, nor in plant life, nor in animal life, nor in bird life, nor in angel's life, nor in God's life. And that experience is the experience of free will in utter ignorance. That's not available anywhere else. The only experience which opened the doorway to higher enlightenment. Isn't it amazing that the door to higher awareness should be an experience based upon ignorance? And the door should be such, it should give us a feeling, an experience of seeking something, and therefore the door will open. If you don't seek, you don't find. So the whole system has been set up so perfectly that in order to have the experience, you come down. In order to get out of the experience, you have the key to it. Now, when we locked ourselves into this experience to make it more real, if we had kept the reality in our mind, in our awareness, we would never have felt this was real. The whole purpose of this drama would have been lost. To make this absolutely real, We locked ourselves out from reality, but we kept a key so that we don't get locked out forever. And what was the key? The key was that within this projection of a creation, we placed characters who could come and tell us, go within. It's amazing that the characters which I am saying we create also creates a character whom we call a perfect living master. We say perfect living masters are enlightened beings. Where are they coming from? If the rest of the whole show is being created by our own consciousness, they are being created by the same consciousness. Therefore, never forget that a perfect living master is merely an experience outside, just like any other experience. And we have placed that experience, predetermined it beforehand as a key to unlocking this trap into which we got so that we can get back. And the true perfect living master lies within our consciousness inside all the time. Even when we meet a person in a physical world, and I am describing the physical world as a self-created world out of consciousness, even when we meet a perfect living master here, the perfect living master tells us to go where we can see his or her reality, and that's within ourselves. A perfect living master is always inside us, not outside. Outside is an image. And we make the image very strong outside because we don't go inside. Supposing it was easy for us to withdraw our attention whenever we like and go and find the guide and master who would take us to higher enlightenment, we would never need anybody outside. We don't go inside. We don't know how to go inside. We think closing the eyes is going inside. Closing the eyes only creates darkness because we closed our eyes. We've gone nowhere. We're still where we were. Therefore, when we all the time we're looking outside for everything, including ourselves, we're looking for our own reality outside, the best way to do it and a predetermined way to do it was to place a human being outside of ourselves, like ourselves, who should tell us, go within. Because we don't go within on our own. We create our own character in the show to tell us to go within. It's an amazing arrangement. It's so great an arrangement. And you see the beauty of this arrangement when you actually go within and see how it was laid out. When you go to the Akashic records and see how this was programmed and laid out. You'll see a perfection that you can never imagine while you're outside. The perfection can only be experienced inside. Perfection of why contradictions are taking place. Why strange things are happening, good and bad, evils and all, morality, this, immorality. Why are all these happening? Why have they been placed like this? See the show from the script. See from the author's point of view. And the author is your own totality of consciousness, nobody else. The author is the same author for all the show that we are seeing. So that is why it's very interesting that by going within, with the help of something that we've created, that our own consciousness has created, a perfect living master. Now what's the difference between us as a seeker and a perfect living master who's just like us? What is the difference? The only difference is the level of awareness. We see from the world outside, a perfect living master can see simultaneously from the world outside, communicate on the world outside, and also tell us about what he is experiencing inside. When we make progress on the spiritual path, we go stage by stage. In order to go and have an astral experience of ethereal body, of sensory body, we have to shut down this system. We have to shut down the physical body. We have to withdraw attention from there. And then we have the other experience. In order to have another higher experience, we have to shut down both of these experiences. In order to go still further, we have to shut down all the experiences. At one time, we can only experience one reality. As seekers, as disciples. But when we reach the top, when we become the totality of consciousness, we retain all the experiences at the same time. Therefore, the difference between us as seekers and a perfect living master is that while we have created physical being, that being in consciousness is operating as having access at all times to all levels of consciousness, which is not possible unless we reach the top. So therefore, there's a big difference in the experience of a seeker who goes stage by stage and the experience of a perfect living master who is witnessing and experiencing and operating in all the stages at the same time, even while he is with us. It's an amazing, I see great master operating as a physical body, operating just like ourselves, and then he's operating at other levels also at the same time, taking care of various units of consciousness which we call souls, who are already at different stages of spiritual growth and spiritual development. So a perfect living master's life and looking at us is very different from what we imagine. And yet, if a perfect living master came and showed that he was not like us, we would never be able to accept him. If a perfect living master were to show public miracles all the time, flying in the sky around us, we wouldn't be able to accept him as a master. And I'll tell you why. Supposing a perfect living master came in this room and flew over here, we'll all look up. First of all, most of all will think there's some string attached somewhere. We'll try to say, this magician is doing something. Where is that trick? Supposing we see there's no trick, then some of us will swoon and faint. That how is this happening? This must be the devil who's come. Then we'll have all our internal thoughts about these things and create a havoc in our own mind. But supposing some of us do believe this is God himself flying, we'll worship him. We'll never be friendly to that person. We have no experience of love for that person. And the only experience that takes you above the mind is the experience of love. And you can never have that unless that being is like us. Supposing that being, while trying to fly, falls down, we'll run to help him. For the first time, we'll have some compassion and love for that guy. Therefore, never forget that there are some experiences that originate from different areas of our consciousness. The experience of physical senses, experiences of physical touch, taste, smell are taken from the physical body. The experiences of deep senses, imaginary senses, is taking place from the astral body. Experience of concepts and thoughts are taking place from the mind, from the causal body. But the experience of love and intuition is taking place from the soul itself, directly. Therefore, our connection to any state of being which is above the mind is only love and intuition. That is connected with joy, bliss. All the words we use for a higher spiritual experience are all connected with our total consciousness above the mind. Love comes from there. If there is no love, there is no spirituality. If you meet a master who's teaching you stern things but there is no love, there is no spirituality at all. Love and compassion, love and devotion are essential for spirituality because they alone come from the spirit and not from the mind, not from the body, not from the senses. If you think that your mind can generate love, try hard. I tell you, if you have real love from your spirit and your mind is applied too much, it goes away. The mind can destroy love. I've never seen it creating love. Love comes from the soul, from the spirit itself. And when the mind tries to think too hard about it, it tries to kill it. What the mind can create is a pseudo type of image of love, which we call attachment. Attachment is mental. Mind says, I like this, I am attached to this. I and the thing to be attached to. Somebody says, I love you, and the I is as strong as you, it's attachment, not love. In love, you cannot have I and you both. It never happens. In true love, the beloved takes over your mind and consciousness that you forget yourself and I. If I is still there, it's an ego trip. It's an attachment. But if the I disappears, even for a moment, you have experienced true love. For anybody, for anything. True love pushes the ego behind. Attachment pushes the ego in front. In attachment, I comes before you come. And in love, I doesn't come at all. In true love, I never comes. Therefore, these pseudo things that the mind creates here do not represent true spirituality. True spiritual path lies beyond the mind, to the spirit, to the soul, to consciousness per se, not covered by thoughts, not covered by senses, not covered by the body. So the perfect living masters come and take us to that state of being, where we experience our own self in the highest form, consciousness per se, love, beauty, joy, intuition, that belongs there. All other things belong to the mental world. Most of the practices we are doing and calling them spiritual practices are mental practices. They're just satisfying the mind. They do not satisfy the soul. They do not go to the soul. What goes to the soul is always connected with intuition, love, joy, beauty, bliss. So remember these facts. And Since you are all assembled here, I have dared to share these experiences with you, which arose from my experience with the perfect living master, the great master. And I'm sure you'll benefit from it. The most important thing is to look inside your own self and see if you're ready. I tell you, if you're ready, a coincidence will occur in your life and lead you to a perfect living master. The readiness has to be in your own heart. If your seeking is real and earnest, you don't have to run out anywhere to find a master. The master will come into your life through a coincidence. That's the beauty of coincidences. I started talking to you about the coincidence of meeting a man on great master's birthday who had been to the same college, Thompson Engineering College, where great master went for study, who worked in the same service, the military engineering service the great master worked, who worked on the same roads the great master worked. That was a great remembrance to me, and a gift, birthday gift that I got. I was supposed to give a birthday gift to great master. Instead, he gave me on his birthday, and I am delivering his message to you 2 days later as my birthday gift to great master. Thank you very much.